Ladies and gentlemen, visitors to the Jena FullDome Festival Part 2, we very much welcome you to the council. And the council is something that in the Native American tradition has people sitting in a circle. And this is what we pretend to do. Or that the illusion of us sitting in the circle is what you experience right now. And the circle helps us to look at each other, to see the aspects of oneself reflected in the other, and to really create a focused, meaningful conversation about what is really relevant to tell in an immersive book council. Now that's the title. And why is it called Immersive Book Council? Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's about this book. It's so heavy, it's so valuable that I need two hands to hold it up. And it's the Global Impacts and Roles of Immersive Media Handbook. And I think whoever is, as we all are in this audience, in the FullDome audience, concerned with immersive media, VR, and the FullDome technology and aesthetic and future, they should definitely read this book. I'm privileged to kind of self-advertise the fact that there is a chapter inside which I co-authored with good friend Kelly Francis. And but it would be much too boring just to hold up this book all the time, because we're extremely honored and privileged that one of the editors of this book, Kate Mccallum, is in the council right now. And so I would ask Kate to say hi to the audience, to the FullDome Festival audience in Jena and around the world. And I say thank you, Kate, for editing along with Jackie Morey, this magnificent, hold it up again because it's so great, this magnificent handbook of research on the global impacts of roles and immersive media. Welcome to Kate.
Thank you, Mickey. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and your audience and your team. The Jena FullDome Festival is so fantastic. Both Ed and I had the opportunity to attend it a few years back and speak and visit your beautiful city and your beautiful theater, which is the first dome ever in the world, the Zeiss Planetarium, where the festival's held. And they're coming up on a 100th anniversary in 2023, which is exciting for the planetarium world and the FullDome world. So again, it's an honor to be here. And thank you again, Mickey, for contributing your chapter with Kelly Francis. It was a wonderful addition to the book. And I'm also so pleased that members of our wonderful writing team are here to join us and share their insights and wisdom and experience in this very exciting emerging space of immersive media, of which FullDome is a part. A little bit just on the background of the book, I'm a producer and worked in traditional film and television for 20 years at Universal and Paramount in traditional hour-long scripted television as well as feature films, and met Ed at a conference at Lance who was doing a presentation on these domes, and they just fascinated me. This was back in 2004. And so we ended up working together on one project, and then Ed moved to Los Angeles and built a dome theater at a studio downtown LA called Los Angeles Center Studios. And we named the dome the Vortex Dome after his company. And I got immersed in this incredible space. And so started attending some of the conferences for the planetarium societies and Immersa, and found myself in this space, and then also joined the Producers Guild New Media Council on the board, of which Brian Seth Hurst, who's one of our contributors, is also a member, as well as Eve and Jessica, and realized that this was really emerging as a very serious format to look at as an ecosystem. Not just, of course, FullDome, but also virtual reality and augmented reality and LBE. Like there's this whole kind of breaking through the frame. So Jackie Morey, who's a wonderful, extraordinary colleague and friend and professional in the space, who's been involved in virtual reality for many, many years, and computer science and arts. And I talked about this and said, let's collaborate on a book that we could do. And we were fortunate to have an opening at IGI and started working on the book and put out a call and got wonderful response from the folks that you're going to be hearing from today. There were 20 authors that contributed along with myself and Jackie. And we'll start going on to the next phase of this talk and hear from each of them about the extraordinary work that they're doing in the immersive space. So without further ado, I would like to, go ahead, Mickey.
Yes, well, thanks for jumping right into the heart of the subject matter. I think before we ask everybody to give a little insight into their work, let's just sort of see who's there. So if I just call up and then you can wave to the camera or to your mom or to whatever, but just so we know, here's the group of authors that you mentioned, and this is kind of the privileges to have you as an editor opening this session, and the privilege is even greater by the fact that we are joined by these magnificent authors. So if I may ask Eve Weston to give a show of her hand. Where is she?
Hello.
I don't know. I think you have to speak up to
Speak up louder.
there
we go. There we go.
This is the real Eve Weston. Thank you. Thank you. And we are joined by Brian Seth Hurst. I think yes.
Hello.
Can you say something? Excellent.
Something.
You said something, and you said it so elegantly and eloquently that Zoom realized you are the speaker of the moment. Thank you for saying something.
You're welcome.
And we'll hear more of you. Then we have Laila Amir Sadeghi.
Hello.
She said hello, and that's true. Thank you. And of course, we have Ed Lance.
Hi all, greetings from downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, with a beautiful original, whoever, did you paint this? No, yes.
I think it was painted a very long time ago.
Okay, very, very good. You keep very fresh, although. And we have Dorothy Lucci. Dorothy. Say loud and happy, hi, here's Dorothy.
Hello. Hello. It helps to unmute. Good
Okay,
to see you.
now we know you are real and your voice is there. Thank you very much. And last but not least, in this round, we have Jessica Cantor.
Hello, it's good to be here.
That's right. Thank you, everybody. And now that you know this is on the menu of authors, I must say I was so moved reading these very, very substantial articles in the book, and then through a number of meetings, getting to know these authors. And so this is kind of a friends reunion. And it has some academic aspects, but to my great pleasure, these are all real people living real lives. And so talking about real life cases, I've opened the book. And so before I ask you to talk about your spiel, I'll read the chapter's title out of the book. And as you all know, on page 176, we have chapter 10. It's called Case Study of the Biz Nest, the world's first immersive sitcom by Eve Weston. Eve, what about telling us about the world's first Biz Nest immersive sitcom?
Sure.
Eve,
Well, I
it's
love
yours.
that you were talking about real people, because that was one of the things that grabbed me when I first learned about virtual reality. Is it sounded amazing, but I was learning about it from a tech guy who's an engineer, and he was just looking at it from that side of things. And the content that I saw when I first was introduced to it, there were games, and it was very appealing to gamers, but I wasn't seeing anything that in my mind would appeal to like most people. And I really wanted to create something that I would enjoy. And so I had a path that was different, but a little bit similar to Kate's, in that I started in traditional media. So I was doing television comedy writing. And when I saw this medium, I thought, oh my gosh, it's an amazing medium for storytelling. And we know real people like TV. So I thought, well, gosh, what if I can take what I learned, take what I know about television storytelling and modify it and import it into this new medium. And so that's effectively what I did. I'll share my screen for a little bit just to give you a little peek at what that might look like. So this is about me. As I mentioned, I'm a TV comedy writer, journalist, a VR writer, director, producer. I'm also now a professor, largely of VR filmmaking and immersive storytelling, and an author and consultant. But what I want to show you is this. So this is an overhead view, a Tiny Planet view of the business, which is a workplace comedy that takes place in a co-working space where you, the viewer, are a member. So that was really one of the really innovative things is I made you, the viewer, a character in the show, and you have your own storyline. You don't have agency, but you are immersed and engaged, and the other characters acknowledge you. So that's really fun. And so the chapter that Mickey mentioned is a case study of the show and talks about how we pioneered and innovated, how we used the space in interesting ways, how we evolved the different crafts, right? We had to work with the actors to come up with new approaches that serve this medium because it's very different. They're well versed in acting for film and for television and for theater, but this is new. And so we really worked on that. And also the directing choices were new, and even, stage managing and storyboarding had to be a little bit different for this immersive medium. So that's some of what the chapter covers. And I've been really pleased that these pioneering techniques have been recognized. So the show won Best Project for Television at CES earlier this year, and was also recognized at SIGGRAPH, where I gave a talk about how it paves the way for immersive narrative. And then just here's a really quick clip so you can get a peek at it.
What is this place? It's the business. Co-working facility? Oh. What goes on there?
Affirmative. Tango Alpha Charlie.
I'm telling you, Mike is the anonymous trooper.
Attention, business.
Everywhere. Are you watching porn?
That's why you asked me into the bathroom?
What happens in the business stays in the... Who am I kidding anyway? It's all over the internet. You can even see it in VR.
So that's just a little peek at the show. And if you want to see more, I'll direct you to where the 360 trailer lives online and where you can actually see the show. Mickey, I didn't know if you wanted to reintroduce I also have a second chapter in the book that I can just smoothly transition into, unless you want to.
Please smoothly transition into the second chapter of the book. What else did you produce for the book?
So the other chapter is on point of view in immersive media. And so what I realized after creating the show and then starting to teach about it is I wanted to talk to students about, about how to critique and view and analyze existing content, and also how they could make their own content. And I realized I was short on language, like the words just didn't exist to describe all the things we would need to describe. For books, we have first, second, and third person narrative. And even for movies and TV, we can use first, second, and third person visual point of view. But then when we're talking about immersive, there just weren't those extra layers to be really clear and specific about what an experience contained. And so the other chapter introduces a taxonomy for immersive point of view that I created. And this is, this slide is very much a brief overview of what it can be a complicated and thought-provoking concept. Although in effect, once you get the hang of it, it can be very simple. So it sort of extends this three-tiered system, right? We have narrative point of view, we have first, second, and third person, and visual point of view, we have first, second, and third person. And then the effectual point of view talks about the effect you as a viewer have on the scene or story. And the experiential point of view talks about what impact you can have on your own experience, which are sort of two new ways of looking at content and experiences that we haven't really had before or thought about as deeply, because it's becoming more and more common. And so this has been proven to be really helpful for creators of content when they're trying to plan a shoot, so they can articulate their vision and clearly communicate it to the rest of their team. And it's also great for analyzing content and trying to figure out why it works the way it does, why it makes you feel the way it does, what's successful and what isn't. And this sort of leads into another project that is a collaboration between myself and Jessica Cantor and a third colleague of ours, Erica Barraza, who is not on this call. But so the three of us realized that there were a few things missing in the immersive space. One of them was that there really wasn't a conversation around immersive narrative. And it could be hard to find, where to watch these immersive stories, and then, jumpstarting a critical conversation. And so Jessica will talk a little bit more about that, but in short, we founded something called the Look Club, which is an entry point into immersive narrative that combines a next level IMDb meets TV guide for immersive, and that can be found online at thelook.club. And hey, if you're there and you want to learn more about the business, you can just search the business in the database and you will get to its content page, and there it has the 360 trailer I mentioned and also a link to where to view it. And then the second part of the Look Club is Siskel and Ebert for VR kind of review with a Tina Fey sensibility. So it's a review show for immersive narrative. And that's all I'll say about that for now, but you can look forward to Jessica elaborating a little bit more on that in her turn. And we've made a point of using that taxonomy. The taxonomy is sort of the backbone of both parts, in that while you can search by many useful terms and categories in the database, you can also search by immersive point of view. So if you really know you like being a character in the show, or you really know you like having agency in the story, those become searchable terms, which is really exciting. And then also the review show incorporates the language so that we can all get used to using it, because it's amazing how quickly we can adapt when we decide to. I mean, there was a time not that long ago when none of us wrote with emojis, and now we can't not use a smiley face at the end of a sentence. So yeah, so that we're just incorporating that in the vocabulary.
Good. Thank you, Eve. Very, very happy that you introduced the notion of creating a new language to accommodate the necessity that we are about to rewire our brain to make it adapt to the immersive surroundings that are from VR headsets, from FullDome, from all kinds of things. So there is an evolutionary thrust. And thanks for being right on the surf of this. And maybe there'll be a chance when, after Jessica's talk, to hear more from you about new language, new technology, new brainwaves. And of course, narrative is something that will be mentioned many, many times. And we are so happy and thrilled that Brian Seth Hurst, where is he?
I'm right here.
He's right here. Okay. Now he has, of course, on page 221, written chapter 12, Cinematic Virtual Reality Inside the Story. Tell us what the cinematic virtual reality inside the story is all about, Brian. It's all yours.
Well, the chapter itself, to me, when Kate and approached me and Jackie, I thought to myself, well, you know what? I am not an academic writer. I can only tell the story of what it was to like. I'm a storyteller. I can only tell the story of what it was to make this. And I really was so grateful for the opportunity, because not only was it the opportunity to present the innovations that were present in the film My Brother's Keeper, which we produced for PBS, but it was a chance for me to pay homage to the smart and wonderful creative team that worked on it. So it was the chance to actually document. So I'm grateful for that. And if people get the book or they get the PDF, there are 6 clips that are uniquely innovational. So we were the first to combine 360 and 180 in one story. This is the story of 2 soldiers fighting on opposite sides, brothers fighting on opposite sides during the Civil War, who meet one last time unbeknownst to each other on the battlefield at Antietam. We did not want to glorify war. We wanted to show the effects of war on family. Also, we did not know at the time that our country would be so divided as it is now. So the piece continues to be relevant. But in terms of the innovation, there was camera movement that had not been done before. That, like I say, there was the blending of 360 and 180. As the brothers get closer together to approach, the piece moves from 360 into 180. There was Connor Hare and Alex Meter, traditional directors, coming to VR, really understood the medium. And my whole point is, the reason our company is called StoryTech Immersive is that the technology supports the story rather than the other way around. It enables you to tell the story. So they were basically bringing, it's kind of like I say to filmmakers, you've got to forget everything you know about traditional film for a minute, learn the toolbox and the creative colors that you have for cinematic virtual reality, and then bring back what you know. So bokeh was another technique that actually, and let me see if I can share my screen here. Sorry, here we go. And so basically, this is shot inside the headset. So you can see we're actually blurring either side of the field of view to focus your attention on the soldiers and on the relationship between the brothers. This is when they first see each other on the battlefield. I will say I am absolutely amazed that this still stands up. It's 3 years later in terms of innovation. I learned so much on that I take into everything I do right now. But you can see where the close-up and the camera movement, what cracked me up is when the PBS executives came to the set, they said, "Oh, this is just like a real movie." And I'm like, yes. So you can see that shots are fired, and just great imagination on the part and skill on the part of the filmmakers in terms of matching shots. So all the 6 videos are available for those that buy the book. We also, in this particular case, Connor and Alex decided that they were going to turn the camera on the side when one of the boys, spoiler alert, when the older brother passes, and you see them now, you're actually face to face with them. I preferred to concentrate on cinematic virtual reality as opposed to interactive or gaming elements, because I just felt it was an art form that had yet to be perfected, and I still think it's yet to be perfected. I like to make rules and then break them. But one of the things, during this time, I actually made a pivot. I'm here to help. I'm here to make a difference. And taking everything that I learned, we also produce live 360 music festivals and things like that. And taking what I learned from that and applying it to this new initiative, which is called Concordance. It's a collaboration between 6 companies, Radiant Images developing virtual production software and control of cameras from a distance. Here, 360 developing a rig that also can be controlled remotely. Lemonade TV Plus, I'm leaving companies out, but the Switch data center so that musicians can collaborate with each other and symphony orchestras can survive through low latency. So it was really interesting to me because I was able to extrapolate what I had learned about sound, go back to Matt Marin at Here 360 and say, look, I need to create an immersive experience in sound and picture for people on mobile phones, on home entertainment systems, that puts them right in the theater that they cannot be in right now. And it has to be at the level of picture and sound quality that people would be willing to pay for, because the orchestras must survive. And it's kind of amazing how we took everything that we learned from the sound perspective in immersive. And we're not shooting in VR, we're shooting in standard. For those tech people on the call, we'll actually be using 5 pan-tilt zoom cameras, but also 30 of the Sony RX0 cameras that actually will allow, not just for production from a director's point of view, but also enable an internal audio and video monitoring system for the conductor. So even though the sections of the orchestras are located safely in other places, they are able to collaborate, and the conductor herself, in this case, is actually immersed in the sound and able to see the sections exactly as they would be laid out on stage. So I thought of this as like a completely different immersive experience while we're waiting for production here in Los Angeles to resume. We actually have a shoot on the 11th, which I have to say I'm a little nervous about. But while we're waiting for production to resume, there was this opportunity to support symphony orchestras and community. And basically my point is that I was able to take what I learned from immersive and apply it into another immersive environment. So, and that's concordance.
Oh, thank you, Brian. That is an amazing. And I'll just, it resonates in me to say, forget everything that you learned in the traditional movie making in order to learn what's relevant and different in the VR storytelling mode. And that then enables you to spiral up in the evolution and come up with solutions for more immersive environments. And this is also an invitation for everyone. It may be that what you've written in the book a year ago compelled you or propelled you to come up with even wilder ideas. So,
you know, I don't know if that's true, but what I will say is if you are inspired by the people that you work with. My job as a producer is to set a team that gets along and respects each other. And if I was so inspired by that team, basically after everything was set up, all I had to do was sit back and let them do their jobs. And I think if you're inspired by your team, it inspires you to go forward and continue to innovate. So all kudos to the team and the directors and PBS and Technicolor that everyone just came together and collaborated to make a great piece. And so I think you may be right in terms of what was written in the chapter, but I think to me it was about the people.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, the people. We are the people, and we are the people we want to be making a team. So good. Brian, we are moving on, and we are moving on. I'm very happy to welcome Leila Amir-Sadeghi. Leila, as it's tradition by now for the third time in a row, I'll read chapter 15 on page 284, and it says, Location-Based Entertainment, How Immersive Technology Can Make Us More Human, by Leila Amir-Sadeghi, MESH USA. MESH, I guess you'll explain to us what MESH means. Leila, take it.
Thank you, Mickey. Thanks for having me on this. Good morning, everyone. MESH, well, MESH, well, actually, it's an acronym for making extraordinary, am I allowed to say certain words on screen? I'm not sure, but making extraordinary shit happen. So, but MESH really, my strength is my network and my connecting the dots, and I think MESH is really what that signifies. So my chapter on location-based entertainment, it's quite amazing what a difference a year makes, right? So this time last year, location-based entertainment was at its highest point. I'd say in 2015, we started seeing a evolution of out-of-home entertainment where immersive technologies were brought into the mix, and where I think, sorry, let me sort of go back a second. You know, I think sort of 2010 onwards, with the rise of social media, and the fervent nature of video games, we started to see a behavioral shift where humans started to get more and more hidden behind screens. We started to do more engaging in digital form than we did in human form. And out-of-home entertainment or location-based entertainment isn't something new. It's been around forever. I think the chapter even takes us back in the history, back to the days of the Colosseum, where people come together for entertainment, but for social engagement as well. Cut to the last few years where immersive technologies, VR, AR, dome, 360 projection, and and other immersive art where maybe it's not tech necessarily, but it's still immersive in nature, where you're being surrounded by content or and experience. We started seeing a rise in this over the last few years, and a lot of it really being us humans wanting to get back out there, wanting to connect, wanting to be social, and wanting to do it with our friends. But most importantly, I think wanting to participate in our entertainment. Entertainment had become a lot passive. We were consuming it versus being immersed in it and in a position to interact with it. And so we started to see an increase in this behavior. It started with location-based VR and the introduction of The Void, who brought Ghostbusters and Star Wars franchises to consumers in a new type of technology experience, which was at the time called Hyper VR, which today is just seen as location-based VR, and bringing people together to be inside of an IP to experience the entertainment together, to the launch of a immersive art company, Meow Wolf, who brought phenomenal immersive artscapes, starting with their location in Santa Fe and soon to be opening a location in Vegas in a couple of months, I think. My God, we're almost at the end of the year. So in early February, they should be opening that. And then we saw a rise of a type of location-based entertainment that may not necessarily come back in its full strength, if that, which is sort of the Instagram museums per se, the Museum of Ice Cream and other styles of experiences and content that people went to. I'd like to think for purpose of being immersed in the content and being part of the art, or making themselves be the artist. But I think the strength of location-based and the strength of immersive and AR and VR really is its ability to impact the visceral nature of the technology itself, the ability to inspire empathy and compassion and other such emotions onto people. And in 2018, I launched a company called FullDome, and contrary to the name sounding, it had nothing to do with domes. Although the idea for one of our first experiences, the Unreal Garden, which was the first mixed reality experience, by that I mean it's the first one that truly took a number of realities: the physical plane, like a forest, sound. We used spatial sound. We added projections, both in a passive form, to add life to the space. For example, we had a pond and we added projections of koi fish, which made it come to life. We also had interactive projections that you could actually interact with as you walk through the experience. We added haptics, and then we added AR using the Microsoft HoloLens, and created a multiplayer mixed reality experience with 40 plus people being able to engage at the same time. We chose at the time AR because we felt that in order to create connection, which is what you're doing in a location-based space, you're trying to create connection amongst strangers. We felt that it was necessary to have eye contact. And at the time, I was very much of the belief that VR can't create that same level of connection. I do take those words back. Cut to several months later, and a pandemic which completely reverses the whole concept of location-based entertainment, and it sends us back at home and back behind a screen. But an opportunity has emerged, and I know that most people so far I've said these words think it's an oxymoron when I say location. The term location-based entertainment, or the term location, might have to be redefined in this current state, or this current time, where the home could be considered a location, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Not necessarily replacing an experience out of home with an in-home experience, but creating an extension of such an experience. And I was very fortunate to have worked on bringing Burning Man to virtual reality. And though this was not the first time that this was attempted, Second Life had tried to do this a few years ago. I think why it succeeded today is a number of factors, from where the technology is to the fact that its accessibility, with the Quest at the time being more of a consumer market, was able to reach more people in home. The pandemic had also increased the number of VR headsets being sent to employees remotely, which then turns that employee into a consumer ultimately at the end of the day with a headset in their home. And with BRCVR, with Virtual Burning Man, we were able to actually create a recreation. This was an instance where it was a recreation of an event, but not necessarily to replace it if in the future that this comes back. And we're back in the desert, if people have the opportunity to live and experience the real thing, I definitely would encourage that. However, what this does and what this has done is created accessibility to all the millions of people around the world that might never be able to experience Burning Man. And I say millions, we're not there with VR and adoption yet, but with the Quest 2 coming on board, we're starting to see that. And the reason I'm talking about Burning Man and Virtual Burning Man and BRCVR is because as I mentioned, one of the things around location-based entertainment is bringing people together and creating that connection and creating that sense of community, and ultimately going from there. And and we were able to create that in VR. We were able to recreate the experience that really felt like you were on the playa, like you were organizing with your friends to meet at a certain art piece, and then being able to run around and experience the event and all the amazing installations together. I think if we had the opportunity to fly as people, not as on a plane above the playa, I think that would take it to a whole nother dimension, because being able to look at art and being able to have a perspective from top down, which is not usually a place we get to see it from, is very, very interesting. But really to create these connection points. But the reason I bring up the LBE space is that there were two experiences in BRCVR that very much reminded me of a location-based experience. One, it was a full dome. We created a 360 dome and had Samskara, Android Jones's Samskara, playing in it. And full dome already is an incredibly powerful medium to experience content. Now put yourself in VR inside of full dome, and that just takes it to a whole nother level. And like you do at home, like you might a normal Friday night, call up your friends and say, let's buy tickets to go see Miss America, for example. I want to be able to do that in VR as well, and we can. And I think there's an opportunity in the short term where we can create, or we can almost borrow the word location at home and create these social experiences, not me going and playing a game solo, but me organizing with you all to let's go see Miss America. Maybe it's in Oculus venues, maybe there's a dome there, maybe Vortex has its virtual space somewhere online. And we go do that. We have because there's limitations to VR, we can have our own dome with our group of 30 friends and feel like we're together and you're still connected. And maybe there's a physical version of that happening as well. I mean, this is just one way to look at how do the physical incarnations of location-based survive the next 2 years of roller coaster up and down pandemic, curfews and quarantines and who knows what else that's happening. And then to look at, in the short term, look at Area 50, and they did a soft launch in September. It's hard to, in a CDC world, to be able to make money in a location with the kind of numbers that you have to conform to today. So is there a way to have that augment with a virtual play that can complement it? And that doesn't necessarily have to go away when the pandemic goes away. This becomes a whole new form of, I don't know what you call it. Location-based entertainment is probably not the right word, but it's an exciting time for that. So we went through a very positive upswing in LBE. Then we suddenly saw this dramatic fall earlier this year. And I think now we're seeing an opportunity where we're seeing some innovation, and it should be, really exciting to see where we go.
Great. I really admire your courageous vision. I think what we are trying with the Jena FullDome Festival is exactly what you describe. We have some choice real audience present in the dome, and we have some location-based entertainment customers all around the world. So I think this juxtaposition of, or this dissolution of location as a location is just what's happening. And also I like the idea that my avatar that's been dancing on the virtual Burning Man has been dancing with yours. Who knows? But that again, it's part of what we are dancing around with. Thank you very much, Leila. And I'm happy to move on to Ed Lance, if he's ready to be his own physical avatar in front of the camera.
Well, Eddie's always ready.
Okay, Eddie's ready. That's good.
Ed, yeah.
Before you start, I want to let the audience know what your chapter is titled. It's called Chapter 16. It's called Immersion Domes, Next Generation Arts and Entertainment Venues by Edward Lance, Vortex Immersion Media, USA. Take it away.
Indeed, and I will second what Leila said about the virtual location-based entertainment. You know, we do event production, immersive event production, and I was quite impressed with the BRC VR that you were involved with, Leila. That was very, very cool, and agreed. In some ways, it was because I'm a burner from way back in '96, right? And in a way, it really brought a lot of the value of the Burning Man experience without the choking dust and having to pack your car and drive and all of that, right? It was quite cool. So yeah, I'd like to give just a little flavor for the chapter that I did, and this was really a great experience. And again, thanks to Kate and Jackie. You know, I've been working in bringing the domes into more of a mainstream entertainment scenario. These are just a few of the projects that the company that we built, Vortex Immersion Media, it's just one vehicle for doing this work. You know, we have to work under a corporate structure to get these things done. You know, we've done a number of projects over the years, pop-up domes, concert domes, a hollow dome for Vulcan, a EDM dome with over 3,000 people, 200-foot diameter dome, and most recently Mesmerica, which Kate produced. Maybe she'll share a little of that with you later, which was running in 33 domes when the pandemic hit, unfortunately shutting it down very quickly. And you know, what we're really looking forward to is the pandemic passing. We have these great venues out there already, our little dome in LA, but the MSG Sphere is a 17,000 seat venue, now slated to open in 2023. You know, excuse me, ENS and others have LED dome, which is quite cool. Innovation that gets rid of some of the issues that we have with the cross-bouncing of light in domes. There's an art park in LA and also SAT in Montreal. So, you know, these are examples of successful projects. This is a little flavor for what we're planning. And what we're looking at is a very large events, live performance dome, a stand-up dome, and then a smaller, sort of more of a community dome. We call this a domeplex. And I'll just give you a little taste of this. Just get this right. So just a sketch, if you will. It's combining retail with immersive venues, multiple immersive venues, outdoor and indoor dining, and possibly even residences. And the thing that I'll point out in the large live performance dome is elevator stage. So in my chapter, I talk about two primary theater designs. One we call the cine theater. It's with the elevator stage or not, depending on the venue, but a projection map stage. And in this case, you have a tilted seating deck. We're looking at around a 20-degree tilt, 22.5 degrees, paying tribute to Don Davis, who said it must be 22.5. I'm like, okay, Don. He's a pretty well-known space artist who does a lot of dome programming. And also an events dome, which is a stand-up environment. And I'll talk a little about why we chose that. If you look at field of view, this is for seated or standing. This is the ability of the eye when your head is normally oriented to see up and down. And this is used to develop sight lines. What you have in a level dome with a standing audience, you actually don't have that great of a field of view unless you tilt your head way up. It's an argument for bringing the dome to the floor, which can be done especially with LED. But still, you get a better field of view as you tilt the dome, and especially when you tilt the seating deck. So this is pretty well known in the industry. The other way to get an excellent field of view is floating and reclining on your back, perhaps in a pool of water with liquid sound being piped into your mind. Mickey can talk more about that. Also, vertically stacking, as Disney's done with the Soaring over California, is another way to maximize your field of view. The idea is to map pixels to every nerve ending in your eye. So also a consideration is when you have a live performance, the idea here is to bring the performers into the virtual environment being projected, not just to put a ceiling over people with immersive imagery and a stage below, but bring the stage into the virtual environment. Things like treadmills on the stage when the talent is running and the visuals are flying past you, that sort of thing. So here we have to look at sight lines because you want to be able to see onto the stage, right? So this is how we're pitching these venues. We're saying, gee, there's lots of entertainment modalities out there. Concerts, cinema, classical music, theme parks, festivals, family entertainment centers, out of home, lounges, nightlife, and theater and opera and such. And we're actually able to create a venue that embraces all of those different entertainment modalities and brings them together into what's essentially a integrated transmedia platform. And this is going to be, we think, really, really popular in the future, and is kind of like the out-of-home entertainment modality because it's so flexible and it can embrace and contain all these different art forms. So it also will be a magnet for talent. So the thing that we're really focused on is that these are powerful venues that need to be used for good, and there's a lot of different ways of looking at that. But we see, number one is serving the local community is very, very important. Having relationships with schools and universities is important, and creating content that elevates people's well-being is very important, especially in the more powerful medium. So the idea is, as the pandemic passes, it's a great time to get the public to shift into a new entertainment format. So we're working hard to bring in capital to make these projects real. Some of these projects, like Atlanta, there's another one in Denver like this, are also from outside clients. But it's coming, it's going to happen, and it's very exciting. So, I really applaud everybody, all the contributors here who are working in these various immersive formats. Thank you, Mickey, and for what you're doing. We love the Jena FullDome Festival, and really looking forward to building what's going to be, a next-gen entertainment industry.
Thank you, Ed. Well said. And it's extraordinary that you brought up the issue of enhancing people's well-being, because that leads us straight to Dorothy Lucci, who is probably popping up on the screen at any instant. Dorothy, are you there?
Hi, I'm
There she
here.
is.
I am here. I am
Good. And as it's become my duty and tradition, I want to read out the chapter that you contributed to the famous book. It's chapter 21 on page 430. Everybody take note. It's called Virtual Reality as a Tool for Mental Health and Conscious Living and Death. Immersive Contemplative Approaches to Existential Anxieties by Dorothy Lucci, Institute of Transpersonal Psychology, Sophia University, USA. I mean, these titles are pure poetry. And then here comes the prose. Dorothy, tell us what it's all about.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mickey, for the introduction. Yes, I think I want to just take like a second and dive into a sound that kind of brings all of the title together here, at least there. Yeah, thank you for that. I think this is a complex topic to speak about. And I would like to start by going into how I started this journey. I've been exploring a lot of different approaches towards getting people into the space of sensing awareness and being and connecting to themselves. And so while all of my wonderful colleagues here were speaking more of this connection towards the outside, there's this connection here towards the inside. And virtual reality is unique in this way. So I did some research at the beginning when I was on the journey, looking to understand how to translate a sense of maybe peace and connection in contact with oneself through meditation. Most people, when they sit and they meditate, the first thing that they meet is themselves, and then it becomes a torrential experience of thoughts and, oh my God, this meditation, that is totally awful. Like, why on earth would I want to do this? So how do you hack that? How do you go past that into an embodied, a full presence of an experience? And VR is such a logical way to get there, right? So it's a technology that can be used in this way. And I started playing with that a while ago. And from there, I noticed that people were able to not only connect with themselves, but then also reduce their anxiety and depression. And therefore, it was definitely going to be like a thing in mental health, which right now that is booming. And also realized further that as you dig into the depth of that, you go towards death awareness, because anxiety ultimately is rooted in existential anxiety, which is the fear of death. So then how do you approach that, you know, in a way that is more friendly? Because not everybody wants to have a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience or whatever it is, or, you know, meet this space in that way. So how do you bring this across? Not through intellectual conversation and cognitive constructs, but rather as an experience that is embodied. And so it becomes a proprioceptive, affective, and cognitive experience. So you're wrapping all of this into the technology. So I started experimenting with this, and I created something that is pretty simple. It's a flight through the stars. It's called Starflight VR. It's an older experience, but I've been doing a lot of research with it. I also created Flow for Breath VR, and I started experimenting with this. You know, so if you go into a space of silence, and then all you have is a flight through the stars, and a sound that is a heartbeat at rest, and then a movement of the stars in virtual reality that envelops you in darkness, but where you feel safe so that you can surrender what happens. And so at first, people use this like 1 time, 2 times, and then it, you know, help with their anxiety. But then I experimented with it, like, really, what if we were to use it every day? Not for long time, but every day for short little snippets. So short little snippets then meant 5 to, you know, 6 to 8 minutes a day for 6 to 8 weeks, because that's for habit transformation. That's the timeline. And so as people were using this, in the first experiment, they were able to reduce anxiety and depression significantly. And these were women that had anxiety and depression when they went in. So they were able to reduce that significantly. In the second experiment, I compared it to an immersive workshop, a digital workshop. So I was working with digital approaches. And what was special about the immersive virtual reality experience is that it created an embodied sense of being that changed their everyday experiences, which is wild if you think about it. But then things started happening, like they were experiencing states of meta awareness. And let me share. Let me share the slide here. And you have to excuse that. So here you see, there's a way of using virtual reality or immersive experiences that cater or that speak to this state. So as you move along this line of media immersion, you also move along this line of transpersonal immersion. Of course, if you're focused on that and you use that in a targeted manner, you can then produce these states and invite people into a deeper experience of themselves, meaning this is where meta-awareness comes into play. So that was the strongest in virtual reality. It was not the strongest in the workshop, although the workshop was really interesting because it produced metacognitive map awareness. So in other words, I understand how other people are dealing with death. I understand what it means to die. I understand what the practices are around the world. I understand all of these anthropological factors, but the meta-awareness, the sensation, the proprioceptive, kinesthetic, affective involvement of the person in creating presence, that comes in virtual reality. So this was really important. So people were having these experiences, you know, of really like going beyond their body, like understanding, you know, deeply transpersonal maps. It's beyond understanding. So this is why it's called meta-awareness, right? So it's really awareness maps. And I want to create more in this direction, of course, just because it helps people really connect to themselves and therefore connect to others. In other words, immersive experiences increase transpersonal awareness. Of course, again, it depends how you are designing it or what your story is or what your immersion, your transportation goal is, right? So if you're having a shooting game in virtual reality, you're not going to be, well, maybe you are. So this may be the side effect, right? But then maybe people can't integrate that and then are stuck with trauma. So this is a little map of what does this mean? And, you know, how do we shift our perception then at a deeper level? Because we can really use this in this way. So as you are perceiving, you are becoming more self-aware, you're connecting more to self. You are then expressing this, which is why neuroaesthetics and aesthetics is so important. You're self-actualizing yourself by doing that, which again changes your perception. And that cycle goes on and on and on. And in comes surrender to what is, and in come your will, but that is also shifting as you go round and round and round. And then as you go into the center of that, then you go into consciousness and consciousness studies and the pure experience of that. But there's an embodied perception that happens, the meta-awareness, really understanding embodied transcendence. So this may be a little bit much to just throw here into, this is like a crash course in transpersonal psychology. But to remember the potency of virtual reality and the invitation that is in the medium itself. So again, it's the most effective way to transform the state from existential anxiety towards more. It elicits presence because it supports cognitive flexibility and meta-awareness. And on and on and on. I mean, in the end, immersive digital media in this way provides a unique model to connect to introspection, metacognition, and self-awareness. And I think it ties in with everybody else's talk then. You know, we can take all of this and go way into depth. Imagery, neuroaesthetics again, aesthetics, you know, zooming in and out of point of view. You know, what is that? That's meta-awareness. Like we're playing with, what if I am somebody else? Avatars. What if I talk with, you know, like somebody else and I am someone else and there's someone else? And what does that mean for my existence and my way of perceiving my existence? So in these deep ways, I love the medium. I think it has so much incredible potential for mental health care, and certainly in the arts and transforming in, you know, depth psychology, you know, subconscious, unconscious, all the way. Thank you so much. And I'm so honored to be part of this, you know, this book. It's been, you know, a great journey and a pleasure to be with everyone.
Well, thank you, Dorothy. I think it's rather extraordinary that I hear described by you that the language that people have in the transpersonal meditative space starts to dialogue with the language that people have in the VR space, which seem eons apart in the beginning. But you basically tell, no, they're closer than anybody thought. And I think this is very encouraging for everybody who's kind of digging on the tech side to know that people who are digging in the transpersonal depth and death realm can actually communicate with each other. So thank you very much for that particular and very healthy approach to perspective on VR. So it's almost sad to announce that we are moving to our last, but by no means least, participant in this magnificent journey. And so I hope that Jessica Cantor is not bored by the fact that being to wrap up and close this meeting. Jessica, are you here?
I am here.
Oh,
I'm
great,
excited.
great. You look...
And anything but bored.
Okay, good. So, and even if it's boredom, it may be a meta state of enlightened perceptive in 360 realm. Again, on page 142 in this magnificent book. Now, you know that I'm basically holding this Bible up here. It's chapter 8 called Discovering a Language of Stories in Immersive Storytelling. An essential first step. Jessica Cantor, independent researcher, USA. So you're the last to tell us more about the essential first step. Go for it.
Yeah, so it's so interesting to follow Dorothy, because I talk about very similar things, but from a aspect of a director, storyteller, and building a world. And I'll go ahead and share my screen to take everyone through a few slides. There we go. And I'm repeating the title here, but showing a piece of work. And I'll give a little bit of context as to kind of who I am and how I approached my chapter. I'm a writer, director, producer, kind of working from traditional into immersive media, and worked at, in content marketing and marketing for many years in my career. And when I first jumped into immersive media, I just started creating. I had this impulse to just want to make stories in immersive media and virtual reality. And I'm in digging into this chapter, I was trying to understand why. And it was because people kept talking about VR, but they were saying nothing. Like, it wasn't telling you anything about the medium or anything about telling stories. And so I just was like, the only way for me to really truly understand this is to just create work. And I discovered something, which was there was not much to reflect upon in terms of other work. So I, had to first kind of answer the question, like, can you tell a story in immersive media? And there was a moment in time where people said no. And I'm going to just go ahead and definitively say yes. Like, it's human nature to tell a story. So why wouldn't we be able to tell a story in immersive media? And the perspective in which I explore this is through mise-en-scène, which kind of echoes what Dorothy just finished with, which was kind of all of the different ways to bring a world together. And I in my chapter approach this through defining how mise-en-scène has been interpreted between theater, film, television, and into telling stories in immersive media. And I really didn't feel like we've discovered what works yet. Like, we have moments that work really well and we have techniques that work really well, but there's not been a consistent translation of storytelling. And I know this because I'm still very aware of the technology when I'm inside of a story. And I think we'll all know when we've created that perfect piece of media in immersive, because the technology will fall away. It's like when you're reading a book and you forget you're turning the pages, and the mechanism of telling the story actually disappears. And I think that's kind of where I think that echo happens, of that presence and that transcendental experience happens is because you're fully immersed in a story world and whatever character you're in, whatever perspective you're seeing it in. And that means like to do that, there has to be a skill and a translation. And we need like a huge amount of story, and we have to fulfill a contract with the person who's watching or experiencing the story. I think when we go in to see a film in the cinema, you know when you're going into a horror film what you're going to get and what you're subjecting yourself to by sitting in that theater for that jump scare. And I think right now we put in the headset and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, and sometimes you have not signed up for that. You know, you're getting trauma instead of excitement and laughter, and so I love that Eve is exploring comedy and sitcom as a genre, and like how those tropes either translate or don't translate, and how, you know, until she experiments with it, she just will never know. And so she's diving in and really learning from that. And I think those genre tropes need to be built by a huge library of work. And when you think this is the Academy Film Archive of movies, and when we have this for immersive media, we're going to be able to really start having those incredible experiences. And so my chapter really explores from a very practical sense what I've learned to that date of making work and how different ways of experimenting across translating these aspects of mise-en-scène have either been effective or not effective, or maybe effective but in the wrong way. So maybe I'll use it in a different type of story in the future, but at least I know what it does, or what kind of emotion a camera movement provokes, or whether like having a fly on the wall perspective versus like a camera that's inside the world, like what that can do for the storytelling. But then this also made me realize like kind of my impulse for wanting to join the Look Club with Eve and Erica and reviewing work and creating a library of work was because, I'm repeating GIFs because she and I are of the same mind, but that, you know, and we're not gonna move and improve storytelling until we're able to reflect upon each other's work. And what I started to see over the last 5-6 years in this, I think we're calling it the third wave of VR, is that people keep making the same story in the same way, and they're not getting better. They're not they're not exploring what worked in somebody's story and then building upon it. They're just making the same first timer mistake over and over again, because, you know, a new 3 or 4 years ago when we're stepping into the space, nobody had done it before. But now I'm seeing the same tropes in a documentary that I actually don't think work over and over and over again. And we're not improving upon our storytelling. And a lot of it isn't the fault of the creator, because it's really hard to find work. Like when somebody makes something, trying to discover where it is in the immersive world is just really hard. Like, is it on Oculus? Is it on Steam? What kind of headset do I have? Do they even have it released? Could I only see it at one film festival? Like, it's just hard. And so that is why we made a database, so that people can say, I want to look at something that is, you know, within the taxonomy that Eve has spoken about, or I want to look at a specific genre, or I want to look at something in that way. And they can go and search and find whatever work we've been able to put up there. And so we really, really want, from like the bottom of our souls, people to share their work with us so we can include them in the database, because the more work that's there, the better it is for the entire ecosystem of creators. And then on top of that, we want to start talking about why something works and why it doesn't, and from a really constructive way, so that there's a language of us talking about work from inside the headset, not talking about what it's like to put a headset on and how cool it is, but really like, when you move the camera, did it drive me into the story, or did it make me feel more isolated? When you use sound in this immersive way, did it really call upon me to look around and explore the world, or did it feel like it was echoing something that wasn't effective in the narrative point of view? So those are the conversations that Eve, Erica, and I are having on each episode and want to continue to have and grow with the community. And so I will do a little plug of how to stay in touch with us, which is you just go to the website, thelook.club. You can find all of our social media, find the database of work, and on our YouTube channel, which is all linked from the website, you can watch some of our reviews. Our 6th review is going to be launching in 2 weeks. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. And yes, we see the connection between you and Eve and the Look Club. And I hope everybody gets excited to join the Look Club. And thank you everybody for giving your deep insight. I mean, this is the good thing about this book is this is not a museum catalog. It really is a collection of dedicated individuals moving forward with something that you have to kind of describe in order to leave it behind, learn more, and continue. And so I'm really honored to have these continuous pioneers assembled in our magnificent circular council in a dome in Jena, around the world, and maybe other universes are listening too. I want to return to where we started, and that is our editor and great contributor, Kate Mccallum. She gave a little bit of introduction into her work, but she has something to show and tell. And if you all bear with us, watch what she has to show. And then I'm sure Kate has one question that she'll ask everybody in the council. And if you manage to give a concise 1-minute answer to that crucial question, then we all know what's coming up in the near and far future. So I want to turn it over to Kate Mccallum. Kate, are you there? Are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Mickey, and thank you to all of you for your amazing contributions. We've had a couple of opportunities to get together on Zoom calls and have just had, we could go on for days in this conversation with, there's so much provocative information and expertise here. So thank you. And to Dorothy's point, as well as Ed and each of you mentioned how powerful these formats are. And Layla and Ed both mentioned Mesmerica. And I just wanted to, I did have the great opportunity to produce this visual music piece that is an hour-long dome show, as well as extensions in VR. And we actually were honored to win an award at the Jena FullDome Festival this past year. This is just a tiny little clip, but we had such extraordinary responses from our audiences, much to Dorothy's comments about how people would have these transcendent experiences after watching this. We had parents that brought autistic children who could sit still and were entranced by this, as well as just children ages 6 to 96 have attended the show. It's just really, really powerful. And we had no idea how it would play, but it's just been very rewarding. And the intent was based on the science of happiness and to truly create a provocative piece that would give people a sense of transcendence and awe. So this is just a tiny little clip. I'll see if I can do my share screen. Whoops. Sorry, let me start this over. Sorry.
With this,
here we go.
I want this experience to inspire you into taking a journey with me inside your mind, to engage your senses with this miraculous alchemy of sound and light. Allow your mind to take a journey.
That's just a little taste of it. And that's with musical artist James Hood, directed by Michael Saul. And the pieces of art were curated from artists around the world, which we then edited together and also created original content that was embedded in the piece as well. So thank you for letting me share that. And so I know we have a little bit of time left to ask a provocative question of each of you, which is, it's 2030. And in your mind's eye, what do you feel, where's the immersive space progressed in 10 years? And anyone can go ahead and why don't we go in the same order that you each presented in, if that's okay, or you can jump in. Take it away.
Eve is traditionally the one to
yes.
give a statement now. Eve, welcome.
Let's stick with tradition. These innovative pioneers, stick with tradition. So let's see, 2030. I mean, I'm going to be bold. I think in a way, by 2030, we're going to be close to having immersive be as ubiquitous as the internet. I think maybe the early years of the internet. I always think about the car phones of the 1980s and how everyone thought that was a ridiculous, unnecessary luxury. There were these giant bricks and who needs to make calls from their car anyway? And you just wait until you get home. And now, we all have a phone that's very small and in our pocket and we can't go anywhere without it. And that was, okay, maybe 40 years, all in, but we've had cell phones now for like a good 20 years, right? So it took 20 years to go from the brick to the computer in our pocket, and technology is innovating faster than ever. And so I don't think it will take that long to go from this bulky headset that people think looks ridiculous and why would we wear that, to something that's going to be sleek and fashionable and comfortable and integrated into our lives. And so I think that there's a really good chance that by 2030, we're going to have some sort of, smart glasses computer configuration where we're going to be using immersive for many parts of our lives to help us do our job and keep track of our calendars and for our entertainment and to support our health. And hopefully these sorts of conversations will continue in collaborations among this group and between members of this group and the outside world will happen, because what I really want to see, but what I'm putting out into the universe and hope is that, things like what Dorothy was talking about, that we really have the opportunity to use this technology to make a positive impact on people. And I love that Ed also talked about the positive potential of the domes. And I think we have that chance if we are very conscious about the content we create and put into the world. We really do have the opportunity to make a difference. So that's my hope for 2030. I think it's coming regardless. Let's make an effort to make sure it's coming and bringing good.
Excellent. Thank you. Do you want to pass the torch to Brian?
Yes, Brian.
Thank you. Oh, wait, thank you. Well, I think in 2030, I probably will have retreated into a world that Jaradat has created, because there will be so much overload of information. But I do think we will be entirely in a world of spatial computing. I'm hoping that world is much kinder to the environment and much less hardware. Stories happen around us all day, every day. And I think that when I think of Minority Report and I think of the flexibility of screens and I think of, AR glasses and whatnot, I think all of that will be part of our lives. I worry about the ethical considerations of all of this. It's kind of like nuclear power for good or for evil. But like Eve said, if we can remain conscious about what we're creating and its effect on humanity and its effect on the planet. For storytellers, first of all, I just think it's always incumbent upon the storytellers to show us the future and to represent ourselves so that we can know ourselves. I put so much great faith in storytellers, especially right now, but over time. So I think that these tools will get better for us. I am actually seeing better augmented reality storytelling, and I'm seeing better virtual reality storytelling. And I think there's a way for people to participate with one another. And I think because of the pandemic, we're just kind of finding out what that is. And what does it mean to have human contact in a different way than in a physical world? Kate and I discussed this when we had our lunch as we reached out to each other. But when you don't have that physical presence, what does embodiment look like then? What do sensors look like then? So I couldn't tell you exactly. I'm not Isaac Asimov and, or Robert Heinlein, but I am an eternal optimist. And I think when creators look at technology as a way to enable the future and solve the challenges that we have, I actually would like to think that in 2030, we will inhabit a much better world because of storytellers using technology.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, I just found a talking stick here, as is the customary in a medicine council. It's my great-grandfather was a conductor, and he used this to conduct. So as we've been a little unconventional about the ceremony of talking stick handing over, I still am very privileged that I want to point this talking stick towards Layla. Layla, are you ready to receive the talking stick and give your statement?
I am. I will receive it. Thank you.
Just make a just reach out for the talking stick and talk. You've done it. Okay.
Okay. 2030. We just hit 2020. We're just trying to get over this year. 10 years. I too am optimistic. I am a perpetual optimist. I hope not to see Ready Player One in our 2030. It's not a dystopian future. It is a positive, optimistic future. I think, like Brian said, I do worry a little bit about the ethical side of things. We just had the social dilemma 10 years later almost, looking back at social media and how it's been used, as technology in ways to influence and impact. This is a greater piece of technology. This is going to allow that. And I think if used in the right way, we can really have an incredible influence on the world. I see education, I see immersive being a great part of the future of education. I see location-based entertainment almost being educational venues without people realizing what is happening. Call it sugar-coated vegetables, use entertainment as a means to feed the goods. And I think that's really exciting. I do agree that we'll have more contextualization of our surroundings and things through whether it's smart glasses or mobile, 5G, and everything in between. I hope that is an existence we can control, the amount of information fed to us. It's the internet being brought into the real world. So there is a very, there's a viral video that went around many years ago, the future of augmented reality, that was a little scary, so hopefully, I think, given where we are in the world from, such division in society to global climate change and everything in between, I think immersive technologies have the ability to help us shift the course of our future versus going deep and dark and hiding from it all.
Great. Thank you, Layla. I realize that you returned the talking stick to me. Thank you very much. And it's now my turn to hand the talking stick over to good friend Ed Lance. Ed, are you there?
Yes, I am. And
reach out that you can get the talking stick.
I'm ready.
No, you have to reach out towards the camera.
Oh, reach out, like reach out.
Yeah, reach out, like reach out. And this is the way it works. Now you have the authority of the talking stick to talk.
Awesome. Maybe someday Zoom will create a talking stick circle that we can actually pass a stick to each other on the screen.
We're almost there.
So I'll tell you, Layla, I totally agree with everything everybody's saying about the transformational, potential of this format, all these formats. Being in the out-of-home dome business, I see the domes. I see the planetariums in 2030 broadening their content, becoming creative placemaking centers, not just astronomical teaching tools, although that's awesome as well, of course. I see new domes popping up as transmedia distribution hubs for content. And I see the domes becoming more akin to digital temples of transformation, you might call it, where people come and gather, although the domes will be more of a place-based expression of the worlds we're building in the metaverse, which is very exciting to be able to prototype new realities and new worlds and new ways of being with an avatar. I mean, you could, you know, with augmented reality, whatever, you could become a potato, you know, and you know, or anything you can imagine, right? So, so anyway, very exciting future, and I do think, you know, we're laying down the codes in a sense for how to use these formats responsibly. And I think that's incredibly exciting to be able to prototype that out. And, you know, shows like Mesoamerica, which were actually very financially successful, you know, grossing, what, like 10 million in just 1 year, are showing how creating content that elevates the human spirit is not only like a do-good kind of a thing, but you can actually make a business out of it. And I think that is what's really going to help feed the shift.
Good. Thank you. The shift.
Talking stick back to you.
Yes, I just received it. It's made an amazing immersive journey through hyperspace. And as far as I know, we now have Dorothy waiting patiently and elegantly to receive the talking stick. Dorothy, where are you?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay,
Here.
reach out your hand.
I'm ready.
I want to give your hand. Okay, here it is. You feel the vibration, the transcendental, transpersonal vibration. You got it. Talk to us.
I got it. Oh yeah, the future in 10 years, for sure. I mean, you know, I think the 5G thing is coming. And I say it's coming because I don't think that in the way it is at the moment, you know, it is particularly effective, but I think it's developing quickly. And I think at that moment in time, we're going to have a totally different access to augmented reality and virtual reality and other immersive mediums. Yes, it's a little concerning. I agree with some of the thoughts of other people earlier. I mean, we could go either way, right? We could just spend all of our energy on, you know, purely marketing activities and forget ourselves on the path as humans. I opt for the direction of, you know, increased discernment. You know, as we're faced maybe with encroaching, maybe more invasive visuals as you know, we're in our everyday lives, that our discernment grows. You know, what do I want to see? What do I not want to see? What do I agree with? What do I not agree with? What do I feel connected to? You know, the importance of the environment. I think that's another thing that's been happening. People are just really aware of the value of nature as we're all in this ethereal space. You know, we're all reaching back to, oh, what is the substantive stuff that, you know, makes my life worthwhile or gives me, you know, a deeper impetus, because otherwise, you know, it becomes kind of shallow and not maybe worth living, right? So this is like positive psychology, like how can we enhance our quality of life? And I think there's a really good possibility that as we kind of juggle these things, you know, as was mentioned also, this knowledge and maybe integration of what social media has come to, the knowledge and integration of what immersive media is coming to. But for sure, I hope we can turn into a potato. But you see, the thing is this, Ed, there's also the possibility of feeling what it is like to be a potato. So, I think maybe that's the key in terms of being one with the environment or understanding other people more deeply. So while it's all, I think it's exciting with the 5G, and I think it's exciting with the AR and VR and glasses and all these things, I also think it's potential, and hopefully let's take it, let's create some great narratives and create more discernment. Thank you.
Thank you. I received the talking stick from you, and I feel inspired to meditate on the inner experience of a potato in outer space, being a trans-potato, transpersonal being with expanded consciousness, looking down to this magnificent group, and now having the privilege to pass the talking stick to Jessica. Jessica, are you ready to receive?
I'm ready.
Okay, here it is. Yeah, you got the right position for the hand. Talk to us.
Got it. Well, I truly believe we're actually living the apocalypse right now. So in 2030, we're going to be in a post-apocalyptic, grace, beautiful time. I do think also technology is going to surprise us, that it's not going to be so graphically heavy, and it's going to be more embodied to our senses. It's going to be audio, it's going to be verbal, it's going to show up in the ways that we want to command it and have a relationship with it, rather than it being positioned in our point of view at all times. I think there's a big trend now of like why be a brand if you're not adding value? And so hopefully people will start, our generation alpha, who will be immersively native, will help make things different, and make sure that the brands that survive are the ones that actually add value to our lives. And so I see a beautiful 2030 for us.
Thank you. Your words are embedded in this talking stick. And I think we haven't heard the vision of the person who has asked the question, and that is Kate Mccallum. Kate, are you ready to receive the stick and give us your, oh, here comes the hand. Wow, amazing. Yes, I feel the touch, or the stick feels it. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, it's very interesting, Dorothy, bringing up the topic of death and dying, because one of the things that I experienced when we first got the dome, which is a 50-foot dome at the studio, and Ed was setting it up, and I was lying on the couch looking up at the stars and, seeing this amazing perspective, I was like, Ed, we have to create domes for the dying. There just needs to be this, amazing place in the future where people can choose what type of music and visuals they want to have around them as they transition, and what a wonderful experience that could be versus fluorescent lights in like a sterile hospital room. So that's definitely one that I see are these domes designed, or immersive spaces designed for well-being and for transitioning beyond life into the eternal. So that's a big one in my mind. And I also feel very strongly that as we see what's happening with education right now during COVID and kids being confined to these screens, that to be able to actually go into these extraordinary immersive spaces would be such a more robust way of educating and letting them be physical and move around versus just staring at a flat screen, and granted, I think that what's happening with Zoom is a new media. I think that what we're doing right now is truly like the primitive stages of interactive, immersive conversations, and to be able to talk to our storytellers and our characters. So those are the two areas that I feel very compassionate and passionate about. But thank you for asking me. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you contributing your genius to this incredible project, and Mickey for inviting us to come to Germany via Zoom, as well as the international audience. And I think that your festival is so fantastic, and I hope we can all be there in person very soon again in the future. And also floating in your beautiful liquid sound dome. More of those, definitely more liquid sound domes. That's also part of our destiny. So thank you.
Well, thank you. You want to return the talking stick to me?
Yes, and I have one more little thing to say. I wanted to just put this up on the screen. This is actually the website where you can order this book. And we are offering a discount of IGI 40 is the promo code for 40% off the price of the print or the digital ebook version. So please feel free to share that web link with your audience. And thank you again.
Okay. Yes, I think this much of a commercial is really very appropriate. And Kate, I have a question to you. Can you ask me about my vision for 2050?
I was just gonna, you know what? I was just thinking, you read my mind, Mickey, good. I was gonna just ask you that as well. So as a contributor, what do you see for 2030? We'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Oh, thanks for asking, dear Kate. I'm so privileged that you came up with this idea of asking me that question. And I must say, I'm kind of narrowed down to a bit of a very small tunnel vision idea. And that's the simple thing that I love to experience and invite you all to a water-filled planetarium that has liquid sound in a body temperature saline water, which makes you all float blissfully in the pool, with a 360-degree LED-lined projection space. It can be any size from 10 foot to 5,000 feet. And it will be one of these community ashrams for aquatic meditation and transcendental potato simulation, movie entertainment. And all of that to me is so real that I believe 2030 is just a metaphor for having that being built within the next 2 weeks.
I love that. I just have one quick, very important thing to add, that if you turn to page 79 in the book, then you'll see that is chapter 5, Toward a FullDome Manifesto, Toward a Horizon for the Immersive Inclined. And that is the chapter written by our fabulous host, Mickey Remen. I don't know if we have time for him to give a synopsis, but I wanted to make sure at least everyone knew it was there and you can learn more about what he's up to.
Thank you very much. I'm just leafing through to
Thank you, Eve.
If you got the right page. And true, yeah, it's on page 79. So after you all bought the book, don't start with page 79. Read all the other authors' contributions first. And then when it's deep in the night, then you may be mentally prepared to dive into the Towards FullDome Manifesto. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you, dear authors. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, audience in the FullDome Festival, who had been willing to journey and surf along the handbook of immersive media. And tomorrow, if you're still there, please don't forget to join us for the next council session, which will be immersive performing artists telling their stories as immersive performing artists in the Dome. So thank you and good night. And what I mean tonight, it's afternoon on November 20th, and there'll be amazing shows. I can tell you one thing that I'm really happy about. In the night today, we'll see the world premiere of a 360-degree immersive TV show. It's called Core Commander, produced by a company that we just invented. It's called Domeflix. And it's the first run of a 7-episode immersive TV series. So that genre will be opening tonight. And of course, you're all prime seated to enjoy it. How is that for a ooh and ah good night? Okay, let's applaud each other and say good night.